Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Hot Tag Show on GoWek.net. I'm Ed Kelly and I'm joined as always by
Adam Stephen Kelly.
Welcome to the show. It is Sunday, February the 3rd, and as always we have an action-packed lineup for you. We'll start off with some news in the world of wrestling from this past couple of weeks, as well as a review of the Royal Rumble. We also have a look at some notes on this week's Raw, as well as, of course, a visit to the mailbag and a competition for you.
Yeah, that's right. This week we are giving away a copy of the 10th anniversary collector's edition of the Bret Hart Wrestling with Shadows documentary, which also comes with the life and death of Owen Hart on DVD, which is from Silvervision, believe it or not, which is still running, just not with the WWE releases now. Okay,
let's start this week's show with a round-up of the latest news in the world of wrestling. Let's start off with some positive news this week, as Billy Graham has been released from hospital. Last week we announced to you that unfortunately he was admitted with suspected pneumonia, but he's made quite a good recovery, and we wish him well for the future.
And also in the last episode we mentioned that Ric Flair had a tag team match scheduled for All Japan Pro Wrestling. That match didn't actually take place with Ric Flair involved, but he was managing. His son, in fact, actually was involved in the tag team match as his replacement, because Ric Flair had a blood clot in his leg, and he didn't seek any medical attention in Japan. Instead, he decided to fly back to the States to seek attention, which obviously blood clots and flying on planes for long hours is not the best thing to do, but he appears to be okay now. So Ric Flair's return to the ring didn't take place as we believed it would last weekend.
Also this week, it was announced that Trish Stratus will be the latest name in this year's Hall of Fame, that day before WrestleMania. Congratulations to her, well deserved. Probably it's certainly in the modern day, one of the greatest female wrestling's ever had, really. She will join the announced card so far for the Hall of Fame with Mick Foley and Bob Backlund.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see Trish Stratus in there. I mean, you look at the sort of the state of women's wrestling today in WWE and TNA, and it really isn't very good. But Trish Stratus, harkens back to an era, I guess you could call it, where women's wrestling was, just superior in pretty much every aspect. And Trish Stratus definitely one of the the most famous divas of all time, if not the most famous diva, I think. In terms of global reaction.
Certainly one diva that's been in the news this week for all the wrong reasons is Tammy Sytch, formerly Sunny of the WWE, and also she was with Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling as well previous to that. Unfortunately, she's been back in the news this week being arrested. I think is it the 12th time or something she's been arrested now? It's a shame.
Yeah, something like that.
Hopefully she'll get her act together. I hope that if she has any problems, that the WWE will maybe help her out a bit, as she's a former employee and they do tend to look after their ex-talents. Whether they have tried this in the past, I'm not sure, but let's hope she gets her acts together, because I'm sure she still has a lot to give to the world of professional wrestling. Unbelievably, this month, it's 20 years ago since the passing of certainly the largest ever wrestler to compete in the entire world of wrestling, and that of course was Andrei Rusimov, or better known as Andre the Giant. It's hard to believe 20 years ago now he died of a heart attack after attending his father's funeral. There was never anything quite like Andre before him, and there's never really been anything like him since, apart from obviously Paul Wright, the Big Show. I can't believe 20 years, Adam.
I know, Andre the Giant, truly the eighth wonder of the world. There's never ever going to be a wrestler that of his, size and stature. He was just a marvel to look at in the ring and outside of it. And 20 years already.
Also in the world of wrestling this week is the news that The Undertaker's rumoured appearance at WrestleMania to face CM Punk is doubtful. This is down to, say, physical limitations is always been alluded to so far, is that Undertaker is not probably fit enough to fight. How true this is, we don't know, but I, for one, have to go with what I said originally a few weeks ago in this show, is that personally, if The Undertaker is not in physical condition enough to wrestle regularly for the WWE, I'd rather he was off the card. Yes, it's very controversial of me, and a lot of you will think, well, how can you not want this wrestling legend there? It's not I don't want him there, I want him to be able to contribute more. If The Undertaker is now in a physical wreck, and he can't wrestle enough, then put him in the Hall of Fame and sign him off. But that's just my opinion. I know it's very controversial, but I can't go back on what I said the other week.
Well, speaking of WrestleMania, we are now officially on the road to WrestleMania as of this past Sunday at the Royal Rumble. It was the 26th annual WWE Royal Rumble event, a 4-match card, and of course it included the 30-man Royal Rumble match and the WWE Championship main event, which saw a superstar capture the title who has not seen WWE Gold in a decade.
That's right, it was August 2002, the last time The Rock, who won the WWE title, was defeated by Brock Lesnar. As we said on the last show, no matter what happened, we had to take our hats off to CM Punk, who was a very worthy WWE champion and certainly made the belt count while he had it in his reign. The Rock has now got a lot to carry on his shoulders because we now know that he will not be defending the title at house shows because he won't be appearing at house shows. So we're interested to see how his build-up to WrestleMania will be, and whether it will be himself that John Cena has already said that he'll be taking the WWE Champion at WrestleMania, winning the Royal Rumble, which we'll go into in detail in a minute. But yeah, interestingly, a veteran of the ring now has become the champion again.
So the first match on the show was the Last Man Standing rematch from SmackDown a few weeks ago, where Alberto Del Rio defeated the Big Show to capture the World Heavyweight Championship. This was his first title defence, another Last Man Standing match. This one was quite a good opener. It went about 20 minutes. They brawled all around the ring as you would expect. The Undertaker, at one point the Big Show chokeslammed Alberto Del Rio from a lighting rig through a table head first, which is a bit of a dangerous moment. And of course, a bit like the John Cena Batista Last Man Standing match from a couple of years ago, it was the kind of cop-out victory for Del Rio, who, with the help of Ricardo Rodriguez, used gaffer tape to tape the Big Show's legs to the ropes, so that made him stay down for the 10 count. So not quite as impressive as when he pushed the announce table over on the Big Show a couple of weeks ago, but still a victory for Del Rio nonetheless, as I think everyone was expecting, rather than just a 2-week title reign. And Del Rio, a babyface Del Rio, is still the World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah,
good to see that Alberto Del Rio did indeed win the match and keep his title. Very pleased it wasn't a 2-week title run, as has been the case with so many champions over the years. Again, as we mentioned a few shows ago, his face turn hasn't been very appealing to us. We think he's definitely the iconic heel, the aristocratic heel. However, the ending was a bit of a, as you say, a cop-out ending to the match. But I suppose in this sort of match with someone like the Big Show, there's only so many sort of things you can do in the Last Man Standing match. So, yeah, a good match though. 20 minutes was a good opener.
Next up was a tag team match. The WWE Tag Team titles were on the line. We've seen this match 100 times over the last 6 months or so. Team Hell No, Daniel Bryan and Kane, retained the tag team titles against Team Rhodes Scholars, which of course is Cody Rhodes and Damien Sandow. I was very surprised at the result here. Wasn't expecting Team Hell No to get the, to retain again over Team Rhodes Scholars, but they did. So it doesn't really matter as such that they retain, because I'm sure Team Rhodes Scholars are eventually going to get the titles, probably, possibly the next pay-per-view. Maybe it's going to build to a match at WrestleMania, maybe. So I do think that a title reign is in their near future, but I was still surprised by this result. But it was a decent enough tag team match.
Yeah, I certainly think that the tag team belts are within the close reach of Team Rhodes Scholars. Whether it will be a WrestleMania rematch, we don't know. There's been so many great heel team champions over the years, such as Demolition, the Hart Foundation when they were heels, the Brainbusters, and I think they're a very good heel tag team. They've both got the perfect heel personas, and I like to think that if they do eventually win them, they will go on a run with them and make the belts, because I think that Team Hell No haven't, for me, really been, because of the storyline behind Kane and Daniel Bryan with the constant bickering angle. It hasn't made the belts mean quite as much as it would on another team, so I'd like to see them have the belts and go on a prolonged run with them as well.
Well, at least the difference is with Team Hell No is that although they have sort of they're just another example of an odd couple tag team who sort of were thrown together, it was a little while before they did win the WWE Tag Team titles, and they have been a team for quite a few months now, and they've held the titles for about, must be 4, 5, 6 months now. So they, it's not just like another tag team thrown together, like I don't know, John Cena and The Miz or something winning the titles for 2 weeks just to sort of extend their feud, at the expense of the titles. At least Team Hell No have been a tag team for a while, but definitely the belts. the tag team division in WWE is heating up. There are more tag teams, and the teams aren't just breaking up every 5 minutes like they have been for the last, pretty much the last 10 years.
Next, of course, was the Royal Rumble match itself, the 30-man over-the-top elimination contest to determine who would face the WWE Champion at WrestleMania. A couple of surprises in this match. Of course, we saw the return of Chris Jericho, and he reignited his feud with Dolph Ziggler as being the first two combatants in the tournament.
Yes, the 2013 Royal Rumble match was an entertaining affair. As you said there, Chris Jericho made his WWE return, quite the shocking return, coming in at number 2 to fight off against Dolph Ziggler after Ziggler defeated Jericho in the summer in a loser leaves, it was for Jericho a loser leaves WWE match. No one suspected that Jericho would return, or certainly it was a very well guarded secret. A very pleasant surprise indeed, and looks like we're going to see Jericho and Ziggler feuding up until the next month or so, and then it's believed that Ryback is going to feud with a heel Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. Other returns we saw was Goldust, who got a nice reaction, and finally got the fight with his brother Cody Rhodes in the Royal Rumble, something he's been campaigning on Twitter to do, to get back in WWE, to have a feud with his brother, and something he also campaigned for when he was still with WWE. And the other return was none other than Las Vegas' own The Godfather, who was in the match for about 1 second, coming down to the ring, got a nice response, and was eliminated straight away by Dolph Ziggler, who drop-kicked him over the ropes. And his music continued to play for about a minute after he was gone. And it all came down to John Cena and Ryback as the final two. And I think there's a bit of a mistake to have Ryback in the final two, because it just meant that he was going to lose in a sort of under the spotlight, since he was in the final two. It's not like he just get quickly thrown over and people forget about it in the chaos. All the spotlight would be on him being thrown over the top rope by John Cena. In that the fact that you could have had Ryback maybe overtake Kane's record for eliminating the most superstars in a single Rumble match. Do something to make Ryback look strong during the match. To maintain his kind of monstrousness after having those defeats last year and this year as well. But yes, John Cena won the Rumble, and on Raw the next night announced that he will be facing the WWE Champion in the main event of WrestleMania. Whether that will be The Rock or CM Punk, but I think we know who that is going to be. The last match on the card, however, wasn't the Royal Rumble match itself. It was the WWE title match, where CM Punk was defending the WWE title against The Rock, and The Rock won the match. There was kind of two matches really, as the match was restarted just under about 25 minutes in, after the lights went out, when The Rock was about to hit the People's Elbow on CM Punk, and probably going on to win that match. And then the lights went out, and the Shield, although you couldn't see, although of course it was heavily suspected that it was the Shield, triple powerbombed The Rock through the announce table, which CM Punk was able to retain the title when the lights came back on. However, Vince McMahon came out and said that, just like he said the week before on Raw, if the Shield interfered, then Punk would be stripped of the WWE title. So he was about to strip Punk of the title before The Rock said that he didn't want him to be stripped, and instead to restart the match. And counter up the GTS later, a spinebuster and the People's Elbow, The Rock became the WWE Champion for the 8th time in his WWE career.
Okay, moving on to this week's mailbag. We have 3 questions for you this week. The first one we have no name for, but it says, now that the WWE is permanently merging Raw and SmackDown house shows together, do you think it's time the World Heavyweight and WWE titles were unified? Yeah, it's a very good question. It's certainly no secret over recent years the SmackDown house show attendances have been down, and the WWE's answer to address this has been now to merge the two shows together. I don't know whether it's just my opinion or not, but certainly in my opinion, the Raw talent does seem to be stronger than SmackDown's, which is probably why the fans, nowadays when our disposable income all over the world is lower now, and we have to make a decision maybe which to choose, we certainly would opt for Raw. Certainly that's the case when it comes over to WWE comes over to Britain. We always have a choice between the two televised shows, Raw, SmackDown, and also the other house shows on the WrestleMania Revenge Tour, and also the Survivor Series tour, and we always go for the Raw shows. As for the title, yes, personally I would like to see the title unified. I don't think the WWE Heavyweight title means as much as the official title itself. Whether this would cause a problem with the amount of talent between the two divisions, as there isn't enough titles to fight for. We said that last week I'd like personally see the United States title removed, as it's a nothing title personally. But as the problem is, as we just said, there's a lot of talent there, and if you only have the one belt, you wonder, well, there's not enough for the talents he's fighting for in the way of storylines. What do you think, Adam?
Well, the brand split between Raw and SmackDown in WWE has been effectively over now for the past couple of years, ever since Raw became the Raw Super Show, although of course now it is just WWE Raw again. Understandable how, there were continue to be Raw and SmackDown house shows because, you'd be able to cover more territory, but it does make sense now that they're just becoming, just WWE shows, which, and I think they run about, one a week anyway, or one every couple of weeks, because then you're going to get more talent, more star power, much more loaded cards. In terms of the WWE title and the World Heavyweight title, of course the WWE title does mean an incredible amount more than the World Heavyweight title. When I think of the World Heavyweight title, I just think of the WWE World Heavyweight title. I tend not to think of its history in the likes of WCW, which is of course where the title came from. I wouldn't mind seeing the World Heavyweight title and WWE title unified, bring back the Undisputed Championship, simply because, like I said, there is no brand split anymore, there's no division. Why not have that? Why not have more superstars, perhaps vying for that title? You can mix it up a bit without, having to select between the two championships. Although it does make sense to have a World Heavyweight title because SmackDown is, kind of a separate show. It does make sense to have that as the sort of, the crown of that particular show. I wouldn't think it would have too much damage if you did unify the titles, and then, you could have the champion appearing on both shows. But again, it's until I think the brand split is officially recognised as being over, then they should keep the two championships. But, I think we are fast approaching the time where it does need to be recognised that there is no longer a genuine brand split. Second question of this week's mailbag is from Jeff Laddison, who says, given the recent news on superstar Billy Graham's health, do you think it would be time for WWE to grant his wish to be removed from the Hall of Fame? Also, what's your stance on his thoughts about the physical WWE Hall of Fame?
Well, personally, no. Despite his ill health and his wishes and numerous requests now to be removed from it, I don't think he should be removed because, personally, he accepted the honour to be in the Hall of Fame. He accepted the paycheck. He went to the event, and he has been mentioning about this physical Hall of Fame, but there wasn't a physical Hall of Fame when he accepted the honour of joining the Hall of Fame. So, personally, no. There are many people in this business that will never be involved in the Hall of Fame. So it's absolute honour to be, considered for it. So really, appreciate the fact he's not been very well, and he's, maybe not long with us too much longer in the future. But no, I think he should, quieten down about this really. But regarding the physical Hall of Fame, any wrestling fan will tell you that they'd love to see one. Imagine seeing somewhere you could go and see all the old costumes and belts and props and everything that's involved in world of wrestling in a museum with profiles about the Hall of Famers and information about them and video footage and everything that can be involved in one building for tourists to go and see. I know there has been some talk of a physical Hall of Fame possibly being Orlando in the future, so that'd be very interesting and a very good place to have it because the tourism that Orlando already has. So I personally, Jeff, love to see one.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of a physical Hall of Fame, I think that there's believed to be a deal being worked out with Florida about creating a physical Hall of Fame, and the city or the state would be paying for it as opposed to WWE, because I think that would always be an issue if WWE had to pay for it, keeping this attraction open all the time, and whether it would be much of a money maker or if it would just be if it would even be like an entrance fee for example. But I would love to see a physical Hall of Fame because like you said, it'll be great to see all the old memorabilia and if you've been reading WWE.com recently, there's been a few articles about when superstars have visited the WWE warehouse, the top secret warehouse they have there, where they have like basically every WWE T-shirt ever made, all the old props from matches, like the ladder match from the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match at WrestleMania 10. Steel chairs that have been used in famous matches and memorable matches and things like that. So it'll be great to see stuff like that on display for everyone to see. As far as it goes to Billy Graham, I mean, it's a shame about his health, of course, but there was no Physical Hall of Fame before. There very well may be one in the future. I don't think he should have his wish should be granted to be removed, because he accepted the honour. He's in there now. He's immortalised. There isn't anybody except superstar Billy Graham who doesn't want him to be there. Well, okay, that's debatable, but I mean, no one's really taking umbrage to the fact that he's in there. So I do not think that he should be removed. And if he just stops, trying to get his wish granted, then he may eventually, have it, have his ideal of a Physical Hall of Fame come true.
Okay, last question. This is from Dylan Tomlinson. And he says, now that The Rock has become a WWE champion, what are the pros and cons of his title reign? Well, I start off with the pros of his title reign. The Rock is already an established worldwide household name. You know what you're going to get from The Rock. Tremendous publicity, tremendous fanfare. He's a very good entertainer, a very good performer, a very good wrestler. So you have no problem with him, delivering pay-per-view matches every time he's going to be in the ring. The question is, and this is going to be a con, is how many times is he going to be in the ring up until WrestleMania? Certainly, we believe that he won't be involved in house shows as part of his WWE contract. So, that's cheating fans a bit. A con as well is, this isn't really much of a con, but it's something to think about, is all the time you've got a 40-something-year-old, former superstar who's already been and done it once, is that it's taken a title opportunity away from someone who may be up and coming, or someone else who could deserve a title reign. Which you've alluded to before, the state of the wrestling business is when you've got to take someone that's already been in the business, already been and done it, but then nothing's happening in your company and you're worried about the direction it's going, where you have to take, have to look back at the older guys and put them back in the ring. But again, the pros are, as soon as you mention The Rock on a card as a champion, he's going to put bums in seats.
I think the definite con, as we discussed, is the fact that he isn't going to be able to attend house shows. And I think CM Punk versus Ryback is the current sort of house show main event they're doing, at least on the Raw side of things. Obviously non-title, now that The Rock is the champion. The pros, they're kind of, I think, the pros are pretty much screaming out, because, The Rock, being the household name that he is through both professional wrestling and his career in Hollywood, him carrying the WWE Championship around, it makes the title, I guess, not mean something in the way that it does in terms of, the power of wrestling, I guess you could call it, but it means something around his waist because of his career outside of the ring. And he's got a couple of movies coming out, I believe from here till WrestleMania he's got 2 coming out. So, he can, I don't know, maybe wear the WWE title in publicity, he can talk about the championship, he can talk about the company. It's another talking point for him to promote the company, which I think is a good thing. And also, another pro is that John Cena versus The Rock 2, with the title on the line, is pretty much the biggest, in terms of the financial appeal, is the biggest match in WrestleMania history.
Interesting though, we were discussing earlier that on Facebook, quite a few people have this as their status, as their profile picture. There's a picture of Dolph Ziggler squaring up against Chris Jericho at the Royal Rumble, and the comment underneath was, Dolph Ziggler versus Chris Jericho, finally a WrestleMania rematch that we actually want to see. So, a lot of people had that. So is this the general feeling now that going back to WrestleManias, and includes The Rock, do people really want to keep seeing the same match again year after year? We've had The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels twice, which was obviously 2 great matches. Undertaker, Triple H twice, 2 good matches. But, is this going to be the way they keep going on with matches now? That, you're going to see it this year, but you're also going to pretty much guarantee to see it next year as well. Now, there's nothing wrong with the quality of the matches, but, it could be putting other other matches on, and if The Rock's going to be against Cena again, this time it's slightly different because the WWE Championship will be on the line. But, you know, just having the John Cena last year had a pretty quiet year by his standards in the WWE. And now The Rock is The Rock just a caretaker between January and WrestleMania, just to have the belt for John Cena. Whereas if John Cena was always in the plans to have the belt back at WrestleMania, why couldn't you just kept CM Punk as a champion, CM Punk versus Cena at WrestleMania, because that is a new match as a WrestleMania match, and people would still want to see that just as much.
I think the difference between, for example, Punk versus Cena, which we haven't seen it at WrestleMania before, but we've seen it quite a few times over the last couple of years, will be the fact that The Rock is drawing people who've never watched WWE and people who haven't watched WWE in years. He's luring them back in. I mean, I've seen reaction from people I know who haven't, don't even casually watch professional wrestling, and they ordered the Royal Rumble on pay-per-view just because The Rock was there, trying to capture the WWE title. So I think in terms of publicity, to grab the attention of new fans, grab the attention of fans of The Rock who are familiar with his Hollywood career rather than his wrestling career, and also grabbing the attention of fans who tuned out years ago or whatever, or stopped watching wrestling when The Rock stopped wrestling originally. So I think in terms of that sense, it's a good thing, and I'm sure The Rock versus Cena 2 at WrestleMania, if it does take place, I'm sure it will. It's still going to be quite a good match. Although of course The Rock does have a bit of ring rust. He's still very capable of putting on a good main event, and we're going to see CM Punk versus The Rock at Elimination Chamber in a one-on-one rematch. And speaking of WrestleMania matches, Brock Lesnar, of course, returned on Raw and F5'd not Paul Heyman, but Vince McMahon, and looks to be starting off his rematch, his SummerSlam rematch against Triple H.
Thank you, as always, for your questions. They are very much appreciated, and they're always interesting for us to answer them. If you want to continue to do so, you can send us your emails to
mailbag@yahoo.com.
You can also find us on Facebook. Just type in the Hot Tag Podcast and you'll find us on there, and you can send us your messages, queries and general thoughts about the show. As always, we'd just like to remind you that it's just our opinions. I know I've said some quite controversial bits about The Undertaker tonight and the championship belts, but this is just my opinion, so please don't be offended by them. Okay, let's move on to this week's competition.
Yeah, but before this week's competition, let's look at last week's competition, or last episode's competition, where we were giving away a copy of The Last of McGuinness, the Nigel McGuinness documentary, on DVD.
Okay, last week's question was, Nigel McGuinness wrestled under what name in TNA? Was it A, Desmond Wolfe, B, Harry Royal, or C, Dave Smith? And the answer, of course, was Desmond Wolfe. And the winner is Sarah M.
Congratulations to Sarah M. We don't have a surname, but we'll be contacting you very shortly on how you can receive your copy of The Last of McGuinness.
Okay, a fantastic prize again for you this week is a DVD copy of the Wrestling with Shadows 10th anniversary documentary, and this is the collector's edition, which also has the life and death of Owen Hart on it as well. And this week's question is,
Bret Hart made his professional wrestling debut for which promotion? Is it A, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, B, Stampede Wrestling, or C, World Class Championship Wrestling?
Good luck to you in that, and again you can email us at
hottagmailbag@yahoo.com,
and also you can private message us, please. Don't post it on the site. Hot Tag on Facebook, just type in Hot Tag Podcast to find us, but please private message us with the answers for that one.
And that about does it for this week's episode. We're going to be back on Sunday, February 17th, and it's going to be a loaded edition in terms of DVD reviews, because as well as the fact that we've giving away a copy of Wrestling with Shadows on this episode, we're going to be reviewing the 10th anniversary collector's edition of Wrestling with Shadows and the Life and Death of Owen Hart documentary. Also, we have got the first 5 DVDs, actually these are Blu-rays, I think, Blu-ray copies we've received of the very first WWE home entertainment releases from Fremantle Media here in the UK, Europe, and I believe the Middle East as well. So we have Night of Champions 2012, Hell in a Cell 2012, Top 100 Raw Moments, The Attitude Era, and Live in the UK November 2012. and again, as well as Wrestling with Shadows. So that's 6 DVD releases in all, and we're going to be reviewing every single one of them on the next episode. Thanks as always to Barry Wilkinson at episode3.co.uk for the logo, and again, Sunday, February 17th is the next episode of the Hot Tag here on goic.net. So thanks very much for listening, and we will see you then.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you then.